Welcome to my channel where I talk about all things horror and music with a side of frequent stutters and the inability to speak English. I'm Zero, and in today's video, I'm going to be ranking all 5 Scream movies from worst to best, even though you'll probably know right off the bat which one will be at the top, so why even watch the video, right? I'm kidding, please keep watching, I work for free. Scream has been my all-time favorite horror franchise ever since I was 10 years old, and I honestly 100% understand why it's such an important and influential franchise in the horror slasher genre. Not only does it defy the genre's stereotypes by mocking and satirizing all of the horror cliches and overly used very common tropes, it also takes place in the real world that we as people live in, and the movies make sure we don't forget that. They're always chock full of references to other horror movies and franchises, like Friday the 13th and Halloween, and it also sometimes pays homage to them in really creative ways. These characters are also aware of these real world horror movies, and they follow their rules in order to survive. That is so interesting to me, and you cannot sit here and tell me that there is a horror franchise that took more risks than Scream. Not only that, but it's such a consistent franchise too in terms of quality. We have yet to be given a bad Scream movie, and even Scream 3, which is often considered the worst movie in the franchise, is such a hell of a good time if you can look past its many subjective flaws. But most importantly, we can't forget its iconic masked killer, Ghostface, aka Father Death, aka the Ghost of Woodsboro. Ghostface isn't like these other slasher villains like Michael Myers or Jason Voorhees or even Leatherface. He's not a static figure. Ghostface is very much a human and is always somebody different, and it's always so much fun trying to figure out who the killer is and then having your expectations blown after the big reveal in the third act. This makes Scream such a realistic horror franchise, and I could go on for hours about how much I love this franchise and how much it means to me, but I'll stop here for the sake of time. My criteria for ranking these movies is as follows: characters, kills, writing, and of course, the third act, including the reveal. And because I love this franchise, I'll have no problem saying good things about all of them, even the ones I rank low. Without any further ado, let's go ahead and start the ranking from worst to best, starting with number 5. No, not Scream 5, I meant number 5 on the... Why am I explaining this? Controversially, coming in on the bottom of my list is 2011's Scream 4. Scream 4 takes place yet again in Woodsboro, California, 15 years after the original movie, and sees the return of Sidney Prescott on a tour to promote her recently written autobiography, Out of Darkness, which is obviously about the Ghostface murders. Of course, her return also brings the return of Ghostface when a new slew of murders start cropping up once again, her cousin Jill being the main target of these murders, since she is related to Sidney after all. And you know, when you're friends with Sidney, you die. She works with the old gang and Jill and her new group of hot friends to unmask the identity of this new but familiar killer. You pretty much get how this works by now. I like Scream 4, and I think it's a nice return to form for the franchise after Scream 3 disappointed fans and critics everywhere. It's funny, it has a clever and tight script, and the storytelling is honestly the best of the franchise since the original movie. However, this still makes it hard for me to look past my many problems with it. First of all, I consider it to be the least entertaining movie of the franchise. Outside of the graphic death scenes and the absolute batshit insane third act, there really is not much going on in this movie. We mainly spend time with the new characters without really learning much about them, and it seriously hinders the development and kind of bogs down this movie's pace. I think it has a lot to do with the many deleted scenes that were taken out of this movie's final cut, which feature a lot more character development and exposition, and they really drive the storytelling much more than the final product. These characters feel more like the stereotypes they were trying to satirize, which is a damn shame, considering how much potential these characters had. Robbie was funny, but he didn't have too much personality outside of being a tech geek. Olivia was just a hot body to add to the hot body count, double entendre, and Charlie and Trevor were pretty much boring nothing boys, until Charlie's eventual reveal in the third act, but even then he doesn't have much development. However, Hayden Panettiere as Kirby Reed absolutely carries this movie, and I'm so hyped for her to return for Scream 6. However, besides the OG gang, Kirby, and the killers post-reveal, pretty much all of these characters don't have much going for them, and that sucks considering how talented these actors are. I think that up until 5 that this movie had the best cast since the original, and they were pretty much wasted. Oh, here's one thing I will say though. The practical effects used in this movie for the blood and gore are honestly pretty fantastic, and I think the best since the original. There are plenty of things I do like about this movie though. Like I said, it's very well written, and the script is probably the best since the original sequel. It's funny, clever, and it does a really good job at amping up the storytelling, which is already hindered by the lack of character development. There are plenty of callbacks to the original movie too, which shows that even 15 years later, Billy and Stu had a huge impact on Woodsboro, and the killers even followed in Billy and Stu's footsteps and tried to carry on their legacy, in a way. Speaking of the killers and the kills as a whole, this movie has some of the best death scenes of the franchise. Olivia's death is all kinds of brutal, and Robbie's death is super bloody and darkly comedic in some ways. Like with the whole "you'll survive if you're gay" trope, even though they kind of force that in, and I don't think it works very well, but it was used very well during that time. Jill's soul, though, The heartlessness doesn't stop there. Jill's soul is blacker than Vanta Black. She is the first killer in the franchise to literally kill her own parent, the one who takes care of her, without any hesitation. And not only that, but she completely betrays Charlie, and to be completely honest, I wish they would have talked about it more, but sadly, it isn't discussed much further than theories online, which is a shame, because I think it was a really interesting theory that would have been new for a Scream movie, and ultimately could have been used really, really well, but no, they don't talk about it much. Overall, I like Scream 4 fine enough, but it's honestly the movie in the franchise I'd have the easiest time forgetting about. It has many things going for it, and many things that it honestly doesn't, which is a shame. I'd probably give Scream 4 an overall rating of 6 out of 10, maybe a light 6.5 if I'm being too generous. Coming in towards the bottom of my list is to be expected, Scream 3, released in 2003, and the first one to not be written by Kevin Williamson, instead being swapped out for Aaron Kruger, who is best known for writing the Transformers sequels after the original, and the American remake of The Ring and its sequel, The Ring 2. So, yeah, not the best credibility, and his writing in this film sadly does not break that streak. I will admit that I used to have Scream 3 higher up on my list before Scream 4 came out, but the more I watched it, the more problems I had with it, and I kind of feel bad for succumbing to all the negative reviews that everyone else is giving it, but honestly, I feel like I have pretty different criticisms with it than other people, so I'm gonna go ahead and talk about those right now. Scream 3 takes place 3 years after the original in Los Angeles on the set of Stab 3, which sees Sidney coming out of hiding when the cast of Stab 3 begins getting killed by a new ghost face in the order in which they were supposed to die in Stab 3. It's also worth noting that Scream 3 is often considered the worst movie in the franchise, and honestly, it's not hard to see why. It drastically tones down the horror in place of comedy that sometimes just doesn't work at all, and it definitely does suffer from its many rewrites and reshoots. In their defense, it is kind of because Columbine had just taken place right before production began, so the writers wanted to make the movie a little more lighthearted and avoid darker themes in light of the very dark situation that had just taken place before it. I will give them credit for taking note of that and caring about its audience's feelings, but Scream 3 is still ultimately a very messy movie. However, it's a messy movie that I still enjoy a lot. Firstly, though, let's get the flaws out of the way, and this movie has a lot of them. Like I said before, it drastically alters the tone to a more comedic one, and there are a lot of instances where the comedy just does not work. It mainly just feels really out of place in some situations, and it ruins a lot of the scary moments that do happen in this movie, especially since some of the scarier moments are pretty disturbing if you think about it. Say what you will about this movie, but I do have to admit that this movie might be the creepiest one in the franchise, despite the comedy. I will admit, though, Sarah Darling picking up that fake knife to try and attack Ghostface did get a laugh out of me, but besides that, I kind of just found myself keeping a blank expression with a lot of these jokes, like, wow, he's really got the whole audience laughing. Parker Posey as Jennifer Jolie, however, though, who portrays Gale in Stab 3, is excellent comedic relief, but I feel like everybody else in this movie is just trying too hard to be funny most of the time, kind of like me. The only time some genuinely funny jokes are said are mainly just one-offs by random characters, like, watch out for the fucking aliens, or he was making a movie called Stab, he was stabbed, or my lawyer like that. And then anything after that just feels pretty forced, but those 3 lines definitely got a laugh out of me. I also noticed that there are a lot of bad decisions being made pretty much everywhere in this movie. Like, for example, the house explosion scene. There is absolutely no way that that would have worked in real life, especially with how conveniently timed the fax paper with the corresponding script line on it was sent. The only way I feel like that would have worked is if Tom had dropped the lighter, but he didn't drop the lighter. It doesn't make any fucking sense to me, and I also think that Tom was kind of a wasted role in this movie. He was admittedly a good character, and to have him escape the movie in a stupid way like that is just wasted potential. Another thing I find super hard to believe that I'm sure I'm not alone on is Roman's fake-out death, specifically with Gale checking his freaking pulse. First off, if someone is clearly dead, why would you check their pulse? And the fact that she didn't feel a pulse is more nonsensical. There is the off chance that Roman could have squeezed a ball under his armpit or something like that, but how the hell would that have played into the movie at all? And he never even reveals how he faked his death, which also doesn't make any sense. Everybody thought he was dead, but when they see him alive and as the killer, nobody has any questions. They're just brushing it off like it's nothing. It doesn't make a damn lick of sense to me, and it's honestly another big reason why this movie doesn't work as well for me as the others. I'm not even going to talk about the voice changer, because it would just be predictable, and honestly, I don't hate it, despite how, unrealistic it is. So I kind of like it. I think it's pretty cool. Lastly, though, Roman's motive is pretty petty, and I honestly think it doesn't make a lot of sense. He claims that he wishes he had everything Sidney has, like, the friends, the family, the fame, the fortune, but, like, isn't he a famous movie-creating billionaire with lots of friends and success and fortune? Why the hell would he want what Sidney has if he already has way more than her? I don't get that. Alright, now let's talk about the things I actually did like about this movie, which are quite a few things. I really like Roman as a Ghostface, and even though I don't like his motive, I can commend him for the fact that he did everything on his own, and he was the one who orchestrated the 1996 murder spree, even if that kind of does bog down the first movie a little bit. It's a good twist that was definitely worth waiting 2 movies to figure out, or I guess 3 if you're not counting the original, and the fact that he did all the killing on his own makes him seem like even more dangerous of a killer. He also does have some good kills, like Cotton Weary and Jennifer Jolie. Say what you want about Roman, but he is a killer I would be definitely extremely scared of. I also really like the horror elements of this movie. They are super creepy and psychologically painful to Sydney, especially the one where he impersonates Sydney's mother. Roman is related to Sydney, so he knows how to hit her where it hurts most, and I freaking love how sadistic he is. Plus, the dream sequence where she sees her mom again is super well done, even if dream sequences in a Scream movie are extremely out of place. I also really like how at the end, Sydney holds Roman's hand as he dies. That shows that despite being a crazy serial killer, she does love him and he is family, so he at least wants to comfort him while he dies. It really does go to show how desensitized Sydney is to the killings at this point too, and it gives her some really good character development. The setting of this movie is also super cool, taking place in Los Angeles instead of Woodsboro, which means we get to see a lot of cool backdrops and scenery, especially during the scenes that take place outside. Because of this movie feels a lot more open and way less claustrophobic than its predecessors, and it makes the movie feel super fresh. This next one is going to be unpopular, but I actually really like the multifunctional voice changer used in this movie. It's unrealistic as all hell, sure, but it's really cool, and I really like how Roman uses it to manipulate pretty much everybody in this movie, which just goes to show how much of a threat he truly is to everyone. Lastly, I will admit this movie does stay entertaining throughout, and it has some really, really good characters. Overall, though, Scream 3 is a mess of a movie, but I still find myself enjoying it a lot, if I can look past its surface flaws. And if you can look past its surface flaws too, I think you'll be able to enjoy it pretty well. Scream 3 gets an overall rating of 7 out of 10. Next up, coming in just halfway down my list is Scream 2, released in 1997, just a year after the original took the horror genre by storm. I will admit that Scream 2 used to be at the bottom of my list, as controversial as that may be. I had a lot of problems with it upon a rewatch, such as like some scenes feeling too funny and taking away from the scariness of the rest of the movie, and I don't entirely enjoy the reveal and the conclusion of the third act. And while some of these problems do still stand, I actually found a lot of things to love about it that can easily help me look past my problems with this movie, and I overall find myself enjoying it a lot more than I used to. Scream 2 definitely feels like a true sequel to the original, and in terms of tone, it doesn't stray too far away from the original. In fact, I would even go as far as to say that the tone of this film is almost up to par with the original. It's scary in all the right places, and it's also incredibly funny in all the right places, and despite all the rewrites they did for it, I think the story is an excellent one that just pays the right amount of homage to its legendary predecessor. This movie takes place 2 years after the original at Windsor College in Ohio, and 2 new Ghostfaces begin killing people that share similar names with the characters from the original, and Ghostface begins killing people. I'm so sorry. I'm obviously reading from a script, and I just screwed up hard. In order to strike up a copycat killing spree. It's a good story, and the fact that the rest of the script stays solid throughout definitely helps. I wouldn't say it's as scary as the original. It kind of does have that It Chapter 2 treatment, but it definitely is just as funny, and the times it is scary are incredibly effective. Plus, it has some of the best chase scenes in the entire franchise, more specifically with the one Ghostface I think he was searching for Gale throughout a movie theater or something. That was a really well done chase scene. With how many chase scenes Scream 5 lacks, it's so refreshing to go back to this one and watch all the awesome chase scenes, and there's plenty of awesome ones to go back to. However, I can't really bring myself to love this movie, despite how much it has going for it. It's a little too long, with some scenes feeling incredibly unnecessary, such as the god-awful cafeteria scene and the dialogue between Sydney and that one theater teacher dude. What was his name? The killer reveal also doesn't make any freaking sense to me when you stop and think about it, especially because Mickey and Mrs. Loomis weren't even originally supposed to be the killers, which does make a lot of sense if you pay attention to the movie structure and how it's paced and edited. And a lot of the decisions in this movie just feel silly and exactly like the stereotype Scream was trying to flip the script with. I seriously cannot for the life of me figure out why Sydney didn't take off Ghostface's mask or shoot him in the head when she was trying to crawl over him to get out of the car. Except for, like, plot reasons, I guess. But plus, like, that dumb decision was what got her best friend killed, like, 3 minutes later, so have fun living with that, Sydney. It also doesn't make any sense as to why Sydney would make that dumb of a decision when she's proven herself countless times to be incredibly smart and very resourceful of a final girl. It feels like a stereotype. Like a stereotype that Scream was trying to satirize, and it sucks. I sadly do think that this movie suffered hard from its many rewrites and reshoots, which is disappointing, because Scream 2 honestly could have been a great sequel if they had just stuck with the original script, which looked incredibly promising. It's not a bad sequel. In fact, it's pretty good if you can look past all of its faults, and I do think it is a true sequel to the original. I just don't think it was great, and that it definitely could have been a lot better. I'm gonna give Scream 2 the same rating as Scream 3, a 7 out of 10. Coming in just before the very obvious first place pick is actually the most recent film in the franchise, 2022's Scream, the 5th film in the franchise and the first to not be directed by Wes Craven due to his tragic passing in 2015. I pride myself on admitting that I am one of the rare people who did not think this was going to be a bad movie just because it was written and directed by different people, with directing duties handed over to instead being Radio Silence, who are most known for directing 2019's Ready or Not, and some sequences in the anthology horror series VHS, and writing duties being given to Guy Busick and James Vanderbilt, who are best known for Ready or Not and Zodiac, respectively. With directors and writers who are known for very good movies, it should be no surprise that Scream 5 kicks so much ass in every single way possible. Whether that be because of its amazing cast, which is the best since the original up until this point, its amped up kills, or the many risks it took to be a different movie while still honoring the original, I truly believe that Scream 5 is the best the franchise has been since the original. And say what you will about this movie, but this movie is the movie that has taken the most risks since the original, so hate it all you want. It took more risks than any of the sequels. Now, I will admit, some of my problems with it purely are just tiny nitpicks, so I am going to go ahead and get those out of the way first before I talk about the movie's many positive qualities. Firstly, I truly think that some of these characters could have been amazing and important additions to the movie if they weren't killed off so early on. I think of Vince Schneider, who is played by Kyle Gallner and is best known for Jennifer's Body in the 2010 A Nightmare on Elm Street remake, because he's only in this movie for about 5 minutes in total before he becomes the first kill of the movie, which is kind of disappointing. Now, he admittedly does get a pretty awesome death scene, say what you will about it, which helps me excuse his lack of screen time at least a little bit, but I just wish we could have gotten more of him in this movie, especially because he does put on a hell of a performance in the scenes he does appear in, especially the bar scene with the rest of the main cast. Another character that comes to mind is Wes Hicks, played by Dylan Minnette, who is best known for 13 Reasons Why, and that's the lead vocalist for the California-based alternative rock band Wallows, and another fantastic actor. A lot of people were expecting him to be the killer in this movie, so I can see why everybody is disappointed that he wasn't in this movie as much as we thought he would be. He does get a good amount of dialogue with the screen time he does have, and I do think he is pretty funny, which does help develop him more as a character, at least more than Vince. But it's still a shame that we barely get to see him before he gets killed off, because Dylan Minnette is a fantastic actor in every single role he does, but once again, his death scene is absolutely great, which helped me excuse his lack of significant screen time. Last but not least, Sonia Amara's Liv McKenzie was also kind of a letdown. I think she was originally planned to be the killer, so they gave her the Scream 2 Mickey treatment to, kind of throw some suspicion off of her and make her a red herring. But it's ultimately disappointing when you see that she's gone for the majority of the movie just to die at the end. It's pretty sad, especially because she does sell her performance pretty well, especially that scene with Mindy in the living room. That was pretty good. And I do think that she did a good job in this movie. Now, let's talk about the things I truly do love about this movie, and there are plenty of them. Like I said before, the cast in this movie is without a doubt the best cast since the original, and almost everybody in it absolutely sells their performance to the highest degree possible. First off, I absolutely adore Jack Quaid, most known for Amazon Prime's amazing series The Boys and Hunger Games, and his performance as Sam's loving, funny, and supportive boyfriend Richie Kirsch. As he says at the end, it really is a bummer that it's him when he reveals himself to be the killer, and honestly, contrary to what other people believe, I honestly didn't expect him to be the killer, which makes it all the more disappointing, but also a very awesome and exciting reveal. Jenna Ortega, most known for Netflix series You and The Babysitter Killer Queen, as Sam's little sister Tara, absolutely freaking kills it in the opening scene, which I can also confidently say is the best opening scene since the originals, just because of how different it is in terms of the execution and the finale, but it also doesn't stray too far away from the original, which is also why I think I like it so much. Having her survive was a great idea, and I'm so glad they basically didn't flip us off at the end and crush our dreams by killing her off. Say what you want about the opening scene being too similar to the originals, but yeah, Jenna Ortega is freaking incredible, and you really do feel genuinely sorry for her when she cries in fear or screams in pain. I also absolutely love Mason Gooding, most known for Love Victor as Chad Meeks Martin, Mindy's twin brother, who are also Randy's nephew and niece, respectively. I also really like Jasmine Savoy Brown, best known for the HBO mystery drama series The Leftovers, as well as being the horror-smart Randy-type character Mindy Meeks Martin. She actually makes you believe that she really is Randy Niece, because she's literally just like him. That makes her character all the more believable and one of the most enjoyable characters in the entire franchise. It's not even just the characters that are awesome though, man. This movie has so much going for it. The kills, while not that gory, are some of the most brutal and bloody in the whole series, and I absolutely love the fact that this movie had the guts to kill off 2 established characters and give them both epic death scenes. Both of the killers, Richie and Amber being played by Mikey Madison, who is best known for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, give it their all post-reveal, even if Amber wasn't much of a memorable character pre-reveal. She honestly reminds me of a female Stu after her reveal, just screaming and spitting and putting in a hell of a psychotic performance. I also love how many callbacks to the original there are, to show that the filmmakers love these movies too and they're not just doing it for the money. Radio Silence were fans of the series before making this movie, which makes this one all the more heartfelt and memorable, and I honestly don't think that anyone could have made a better Scream movie than them, obviously, except besides Wes. The hospital where we actually get to see Ghostface talk in person is one of the best scenes in the entire franchise, and its scariness is honestly up to par with the scariness of the original's opening scene. The script and story are both extremely sharp, tight, and well written, and while this movie does have a few forced lines and it feels weirdly edited at times, this movie's meta is the best since the original. It doesn't feel forced at all, and it truly does belong there. Not only that, but this movie is also the funniest since the original, with a lot of these jokes and lines actually getting legit laughs out of me. I had the absolute best time seeing this in theaters. Got to see it opening night, it was freaking great. And I absolutely love this movie. It's such a return to form for the series, and I have no problem saying that it's the best Scream since the original. And I honestly don't care what kind of hate comments I get for saying that. Scream 5 is a terrific addition to the series, and I'm so excited to see what Radio Silence can deliver with the upcoming Scream 2, which comes out in March of 2023. Scream 5 gets a solid 9 out of 10. Good work, Radio Silence, and everybody involved with this movie. In my opinion, Wes would be proud as fuck. It should have been obvious what the top pick would be, because it's a movie that changed the horror genre forever and made people love slasher movies again. Obviously, I'm referring to the 1996 original Scream, which is also one of my favorite movies of all time in general, even outside of being a horror movie. I could literally go on forever about how much this movie means to me and how much I love it, and it's worth noting that this movie is a bona fide classic. I cannot stress how impactful this movie was on the horror slasher genre as a whole, and it was released around the time people stopped caring about slasher movies, which resulted in their fast decline. It's so well known for so many different things, whether that be its realistic meta and how different it is for a slasher movie to take place in the real world, and have all these characters be aware of all the horror classics, such as Friday the 13th, or A Nightmare on Elm Street. Not only that, but they have to follow the rules of surviving those types of movies, which gives this film such a fresh and I can confidently say that no slasher movie ever took the amount of risks that Scream took. It's also so popular for how it satirizes horror cliches and completely bashes them in a fun and interesting way. Its amazing lead protagonist in the form of Sidney Prescott, played by Neve Campbell, who is obviously most well known for Party of Five. Its balanced out blend of horror and comedy, and of course its peanut-eyed ghost costume serial killer, Ghostface. Call him whatever you want. Ghostface, Father Death, the peanut-eyed ghost, everyone will instantly know who you're talking about. Ghostface is without a doubt one of the most iconic villains in horror history, right up there with Jason and Freddy and even Chucky, even if Ghostface doesn't have as much movies as those other characters do. I'm also completely fine with the fact that this movie's death scenes aren't always graphic, because even outside of its death scenes, this movie's just so damn entertaining all throughout. Whether it be thanks to the party scene, all the scenes we get with Billy and Stu acting like complete nutcases, especially Stu, or all of the fantastic, well-executed chase scenes. This movie has so much going for it, even outside of its horror moments and meta-commentary, and it also has some really fun writing and even some more fun characters to add bonus points. Matthew Lillard, most known for 13 Ghosts and the live-action Scooby-Doo duology, is nuts in the best way possible and is absolutely hilarious about it. He admittedly does go a little cartoonishly crazy at times, but hey, he's giving one of the most dedicated performances in the whole franchise, and I'm all for it. Rose McGowan, best known for this movie, I think, and I think the movie was called The Doom Generation, is a preppy but sweet and supportive best friend to Sidney, and the girlfriend of Stu, who seems to have a hard time, you know, putting up with all of his shenanigans, but she doesn't live for long, so she doesn't have to deal with them much longer. Last but definitely not least, how can we forget Randy, the horror-smart comedic relief played by the one and only Jamie Kennedy, most known for this movie along with its sequel and his own hidden camera prank show, The Jamie Kennedy Experiment, which I've heard is a very good show, so I'm gonna have to check it out. He's excellent comedic relief and gives some of the best one-liners of the entire franchise, which could be said to almost anybody, and they would know what movie it's from, even if they don't watch horror movies. And obviously, same could be said for any of the times that Roger L. Jackson is on the phone, who is absolutely terrifying all throughout this movie, and honestly terrifying throughout the entire franchise, even the movies I rank low. I honestly think that the movies he's at his most terrifying are Scream 1, 4, and 5. He absolutely kills it in every single movie, and I don't think anybody could have voiced Ghostface better than Roger L. Jackson, and that is excluding Mike Vaughn in the TV series. For the sake of time, I won't keep droning on about how much I love this movie and how important it is. However, Scream is one of the most influential horror films ever made, and it made people love horror movies again. Scream is also one of the best films ever made, and is without a doubt one of my top favorites, and why it gets a 10 out of 10 rating from me. It's a masterpiece in every sense of the word, and if you have not ever seen this movie, I highly recommend you go watch it right now. I will leave all the links to all the movies down below where you can watch them, and even the TV series if you want to check that out, which, by the way, I want to say one thing before I end this video, so just stick around for a few seconds. The reason I didn't include the TV series in this video is not because I don't like it. I actually really do enjoy the TV series. It's just because I'm only talking about the movies in this ranking. Maybe in the future I'll do a ranking video where I rank the 3 seasons of the TV series, but yeah, in this video I'm just talking about the movies. However though, if I did have to include it in this movie, I would probably put it below 1 and 5, but above everything else. Because like I said, I really do love the TV series, and despite what people say, I think it's an excellent addition to the Scream name. So yeah, I do enjoy the TV series, and honestly, the season 1 of the TV series, wait no, I'm gonna save that for the ranking I do later, but yeah, the TV series as a whole for me gets an 8 out of 10. Thank you guys so much for watching my ranking of the Scream series from worst to best, and my holy crap, longest video to date. We're almost at half an hour. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and let me know what you guys think of the Scream movies down below, and even give me your own ranking. I'm really excited to hear what you guys think, because I know we're all probably going to have very, very different opinions, but just don't be a dick about it, okay? I love you guys, and I will see you guys in the next video, and once again, thank you so much for watching. My name is Zero, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.